So, in today's podcast, I am joined by Sam Bangura. He is the owner of North South Records with Harry McCann and Dale Washington, and is also involved with the world famous Half Baked, which are all about how he's been really cracking down on production over lockdown, what it's like DJing all over the world, and just some other stuff. So, without further ado, let's get stuck into the podcast. Oh, and also, this podcast is sponsored by SYNTHO Hub. If you want to get into music production, head over to the SYNTHO website for more information. Yo, mate.
Yes, mate, you're right.
Yeah, man, you?
Yeah, wicked, thank you. Can you
Hey,
hear?
mate.
Yeah, got you. Got you.
How's life?
Yeah, good man. Good. Still up here at home in the spare room at mum's. But yeah, it's nice to see good things on the horizon. Hopefully, like it's all picking up again, which is promising. But yeah, just rolling along.
So,
You
to
know.
get one thing straight, we're actually from quite a close area, aren't we? Which is
Yeah, so I'm
kind of
from
good.
Bangura, which is what maybe how where are you, Wilmslow?
On your Wirral. I think it's been like half an hour, isn't it?
Yeah, but my dad, when I was growing up, he lived in Lim, so I would spend every other weekend in Lim when I was growing up. So that's even closer to you.
I know it's mad that I actually had a I assumed you were a full on Londoner, but that's what I didn't have a clue.
No,
Uh,
I've been there since 2012.
but that's what's funny is I think we're actually the same age as well, 25.
I'm 27, 1993.
I think you said was it your brother that was my age?
Yeah, my brother's 25. Yeah, yeah,
What's funny is we probably played rugby or football or something against each other.
yeah, exactly. Probably, yeah. One of
so,
those weird little coincidences in life.
so how come you went down to London?
For uni,
Okay.
yeah, I went down there 2012. Um, went to uni in East London, and then just it all started down from around there. Like that's how I got into things down there. Didn't know anyone down there when I went down there at first, but just sort of started going out, and that's where everything evolved from, basically.
And what did you go to study?
Human geography,
So nothing to do with what you're doing
nothing
now.
to do with music, but so my dissertation, because it's all about how people relate to place. So you can look at things like population, migration, all this kind of stuff, cultures. So for my dissertation, I looked at how different music scenes develop in different areas. So you're sort of your Detroit techno, or you've got your blues, like all these different scenes and cultures developing in different areas depending on the different factors of the way that people are living and whatever. That's all affecting the sort of the outcome of the music, not just the music of course, but the food. And so you could tie all these different things in with geography. Like it
Interesting.
was
Was there
really interesting. Yeah, I loved it.
any interesting findings when you did that dissertation?
um I mean, I wish I'd taken that more seriously, that dissertation. um I found what you could find in the reading.
Yeah, yeah.
I didn't sort of, I feel like if I'd actually put more effort into it, I could have found some more interesting stuff. But I essentially was just amassing stuff that was already out there and putting it into one thing.
Yeah,
Uh,
I think it's funny that I think education as a whole, as you get older, you always look back like, I actually would have loved to do that again now. You know,
yeah, exactly. If you could have a second chance, you'd go around and do it all completely differently.
yeah,
But I think it was a great experience going to uni. I loved it, and the people that I met there and things like it was wicked.
and were you DJing before you went down there?
Yeah, so well, not that was as a hobby, yes. So I actually started DJing. You know, when you go on like these, do you ever go on those like holiday village holidays in Spain or whatever?
I know what you mean. Yeah, yeah.
And all the kids clubs or whatever. So I think it was a first choice one to somewhere in the south of Spain, and they had the kids club, and one of the kids club reps, he worked for Point Blank. I think it was some partnership that Point Blank had with First Choice. So he was just playing by the pool every day and teaching kids to play. And so I learned then. I was 12, I think. And then on that holiday, I just spent the rest of the holiday every day, just stood there teaching.
Wow.
There's videos of. I'll have to show you a video.
So
Uh,
that's actually that's one I've never heard before. It's usually like the 16, 17, 18 after party, stumbling across it that way. Uh,
no, this was, yeah, 12-year-old holiday in, I think I've got a England football top with Wayne Rooney on the back, like
yeah.
with me with no hair, like looking all timid and nervous, just behind.
Sick. It was DJing since 12. Did you get the bug for it quite early on then, collecting
Yeah,
records?
I loved it. So from that holiday, when I came home, I was like, right, I want to start playing. Just obviously, there was never any sort of idea of doing what I'm doing now. Back then, it was just I loved the whole feeling of playing music. So that I think it was that Christmas or something. I asked for just a little USB controller for Christmas, and then I was playing on that just in my bedroom for a few years until saved up all my money, got some CDJs and a mixer.
So,
Um,
so do you think London played a big part in the development of you as an artist, or do you think it would have been the same if you stayed at home?
no, I definitely think it played a big development in me as an artist. I suppose here the closest city we have to us is Liverpool.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so whilst there was a few nights going on in Liverpool, there was not so much back then for this kind of sound that we're into now. When I was sort of 17, 18, around here, I mean, I think the first night, apart from the student nights that I was going out to with my mates, the first sort of mm, electronic, well, not electronic, the music closest to our scene, I guess you'd say, I was going out to Circus. Um, so that was my sort of,
Introduction.
yeah, I guess you'd say that introduction into this sort of scene. But then it was really when I came to London, started going to Fabric, started going to all these other places that my sort of my shape really sort of
Yeah.
tunneled down into and funneled into the right sort of path. Um, yeah, so I definitely say London has had a massive effect on it. Um,
It's funny that we mentioned at the start the geography thing because it actually is crazy. I think I've said this before on a podcast, how being in a different city can have such a massive influence on the music that people play. Because in Manchester, the amount of DJs that are kind of on that Kaluki path, you know,
yeah,
massive here, like Jamie
yeah,
Jones, Graham
yeah,
Hop,
yeah,
and you can see it across the city, the influence it has on people. And then you go to Leeds where there's just so many sick DJs out of Leeds, you know. And I think the clubs there, like Mint Club, obviously shapes. I think the clubs as well that plays a massive part, doesn't it, on the DJs that go around it. Um, but yeah, I always think London. There just seems so much diversity, and
I, I think that's the key thing with London. You can get a bit of everything down there. So I was actually having a chat with Harry yesterday about something similar because we were talking about Sheffield and Nottingham. So whilst they do have scenes there, it's not really related to our kind
yeah,
of scene directly. I mean, it's a bit more industrial if you go down to Nottingham, the sound. It's so every city has their own different sort of feeling, but then I feel like London's a bit more of a melting pot. And that's not to say that you have to go to London because I don't believe that at all. Like I feel like you can.
internet anyway, it's easy to discover stuff. But yeah, it's interesting. Sheffield and Nottingham, two cities I've never played, and it always seems to be a bit harder stuff there. You know, like I see Ben UFO or Pearson Sound, things like that seem to do really well there. Well, that's what I see anyway. Shows like that, um, and even like big techno events in Sheffield, which is
Yeah,
mad. It's like an
yeah,
from Manchester, but I think, for example, I don't think like a you and me show would really do that well there. And I'm guessing Harpic never done Sheffield either.
no, 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 no,
No, it's funny.
no. Yeah, I think I don't know what it is because obviously you've got Warp coming from Sheffield, like so. It's just strange, isn't it? How these different scenes develop out of different areas. So going back to what I did my dissertation on, basically, like it all links in, and if you did search back the history of the city, I'm sure would follow
Yeah.
you into this path. But it's,
So We mentioned half baked then. I'd be really interested to hear about that, as that's how I first became aware of you. I saw you playing on a lot of sick lineups as well, man. Like you've toured with them all over the world.
Yeah, that's it's been if you'd said to me in 2012 when I went to London that I'd be doing that sort of less than 10 years later, I would have told you were being ridiculous. Like,
Go on, what happened? How was the initial relationship formed with the half
so
baked?
so like I said, when I came down to London, I was new to the city, didn't really, apart from my uni mates at that time, I didn't have any friends down there. So I started going out to these parties and to these clubs um, with a few uni mates, and they were a few of the ones in the older years. So they'd been there a couple of years before me, so they were showing me about. Went to Fabric, was going to Half Baked. They did these summer parties down in this car park, and I remember those that first year, 2000, late 2012, early 2013. So it must have been the summer 2013. These parties in the car park in the summer daytime, and just the sun. Every time there seemed to be a party, there was just blaring sun. Like they never, for some reason, they never had a party on a rainy day. It was weird. Um, so through going to those parties, I just, I was following them on Facebook. I was following them on whatever. Became looking out for when the next parties were. And then one day I saw they had a post on their Facebook saying they were looking for an intern,
Yeah,
just want to sort of get involved, start helping with the social media and start helping running at the events and things. And so I sent a message, oh yeah, I'm interested, blah, blah, blah. And Bruno, who runs Half Baked, he said, I didn't hear anything for maybe 2, 3 weeks, I think it was. And then I got a message randomly saying, do you want to come down and have a chat? So I went down to what is now number 90. I don't know if you know number 90, which is,
I've seen it on Instagram. Like, it's
yeah, so that's,
the venue outside.
yeah, so it's the main building. It's got a big sort of painted face on the front, which wasn't there back then, but it's right next to the canal in Hackney Wick. So they've got the whole terrace on the outside next to the canal, which is amazing for outdoor parties. But yeah, so when I went down for that chat, wasn't really an interview. Um, Number 90 it was still a building site then. They were still converting it from an old printing warehouse into the restaurant slash bar that it is today. And it just, yeah, from there, Bruno was like, oh yeah, you sound like you're really keen. You want to get involved, like just to come and help with the parties. And if you want to come down and help us out one day a week, that's great. And it worked perfectly for me because I was at uni.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
so it allowed me, I could still do uni bits and then have one day a week where I was going out and doing something which I enjoyed. Never told him that I was a DJ. Like I wanted to be involved in the party. Do you know what I mean? Um, so then from that, I was working, doing part time, well, internship one day a week, and then it sort of progressed a little more and a little more. And then one day, Greg, who's one of the other half baked residents, Greg Brockman, he saw me walking with a record bag through Dalston, and he looked at me and, Sam, what have you got there, basically? And I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to play some records at a mate's house. He's like, what, you DJ? Like, so from that, he was like, he told Bruno, who runs Half Baked, and Bruno was like, oh, Sam, I want to hear you play. So then brought some records down to number 90 after work one day and just played just to the people eating in number 90. Obviously wasn't
sick.
bumping it out, but and then it just grew from there. Then they made me a resident. Well, first I went on, moved on from the internship and was working part time. So I was doing 2, 3 days a week, like actually employed. Um, and then they made me a resident. And then when I finished uni 2015, I was a bit like, oh, I don't know what I'm going to do now in terms of work and things. And Bruno said, I want you to come on and manage it.
Sick, man.
And start looking after things full time. So that's since then, that's been what I've been doing, playing on the weekends and then running that in the week.
Class. So a very organic story, and it seems like it happened really naturally.
Yeah, it was never, nothing was ever forced. I just kind of fell into it. It was a sort of right place at the right time situation. Like if I hadn't been going to those parties that summer and I hadn't seen that post on Facebook, I wouldn't be where I am now. Like,
Crazy, innit? Literally, split-second decisions, I guess, with the Facebook algorithm now. You'd be lucky to see any post at all.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, yeah. Unless they paid for it 150 quid, right?
What was your mindset towards DJing at that point? Was it something you were taking seriously, or was it literally just collecting a few records and just hanging out with your mates?
Um, Obviously at uni, there was a bunch of different DJs at uni, so there was a sort of small collective. Everyone, as it is often with unis in cities in London, like London, for example, you get all these different DJs, but they all play completely different sounds.
Yeah.
So there was one show on the uni radio station, so I had a slot on there, but then the person after me would be playing like the deepest, darkest dubstep, like, and then to drum and bass before me. So it just went completely like this. So back then for me I loved doing it. I loved playing, like, just would get home after finish uni and just play records in my room. um I never sort of thought this is what I'm going to do, like, do you know what I mean? It was like you say, organic. It happened because it was just what I loved doing, but I never said, right, this is what I'm going to make a career out of. That was never the initial intention for me. It was just what I loved doing.
Yeah. I think, in them early stages, it's so exciting when it's just purely for the pleasure of DJing. Obviously, now it's still like one of the most funnest things to do ever. But you know, that for that stage of where you're ever getting paid for it and you're just doing it for fun.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Part of social media now, I think there's a massive shift towards like everyone's trying to be a DJ. I know, like 5, 6 years ago, it was still just like something you did for fun. Whereas I don't actually meet that many people now who just start doing it for fun. It seems to kind of be like, I think that's just the pressures of the external world.
I think when you and I probably when did you start playing?
I started playing off 17, so I'm now 25, so 8 years ago. So yeah, like 2011, 2012, I think.
Yeah, so I think back in those days, whilst there was social media around, it wasn't all this kind of sort of pressure to put everything on social media, to do this, to do this. So if you were DJing, it was like you say, it was purely for your own fun. It was for your own pleasure, and that was, even if no one else heard you play for 6 hours at home, you'd done it, and that made sense to you, and you'd had a great time for that 6 hours. But nowadays, it's like, if you don't post it, did
Didn't
you really do it?
Yeah, it's so true actually, and I think DJing is one of them things that like it is good to. There's a lot to post about, isn't it? So it's quite easy to, I don't know, share it with the world. Uh,
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. The social media thing, I'm not a massive fan of it, but it's now, if you're not doing it, it's almost like,
didn't happen.
yeah,
Yeah, I think
it's
it's hard. I spoke to
a
Adam about
double-edged sword.
Yeah, I spoke to Adam about this. It's just a double-edged sword. Yeah, that someone said that like you can't really win because the more you get swallowed up by it, the more it can like consume you. But then also, if you just
If
sit on
you
the side,
ignore it, then you don't
yeah,
exist to anyone, basically.
yeah, it's crazy. So the Half Baked, you did some touring around the world with them, right?
Yeah. So as being one of the residents, that's been the amazing thing that comes with that is being able to go to play all the showcases for the label. So I've been as far as played an episode in Vietnam, been in Australia playing with the Sash Guys and Breakfast Club, um, been over to New York, and then other places, Lebanon, Cairo, amazing places. So it's, and then all around Europe as well. So it's just been amazing. Like I said, I would never, 10 years ago, I would never in my wildest dreams have imagined that.
When
Uh,
was your first show outside of the UK? Can you remember?
I have a feeling it was in Milan. I have a
The real
fe-
feeling, isn't it, when you actually take your records to the airport and you're like, "Fucking hell, I'm actually flying somewhere to play."
yeah, it was a whole thing of taking them and thinking, all right, do I check them in here, or do I bring them on? Like, it was all very weird, but it's it becomes second nature so fast, and you become so used to it, and playing and then getting up and going straight to the airport the next morning. At first, it's like, oh, how am I going to do that? I'm not, like, I'm not ready for this. But it all becomes second nature, and it's something that I'm so blessed to have had the opportunity to be able to even play in Europe. amazing already, and then to go as far as that I've had the chance to go to play the music that I love to whoever wants to listen to it. Like it's amazing.
So back to the record bag question. This is something that still gets me because a full record bag packed is too heavy to
Yeah,
take hand luggage.
yeah.
But also, I don't think I've got that UDG one at the moment, the one that's quite popular. I don't think that's got the minerals to be chucked around in the air in the plane either. Yeah,
No, so I had that UDG one, and you know that big pocket it's got on the front.
yeah.
I've had that. I've checked that in before, and it's come back with the pocket hanging off, almost as if someone's picked it up by the pocket and thrown it onto the thing. All the records inside were okay, but it's just like it's so tricky because you can go and take it to the fragile section in the airport where it goes in with all like ski things and things, but still they don't take like once it gets on that part, they stick a fragile sticker on it and it goes on the same tunnel as everything else.
So,
Um,
do you think? Well, I just always on the fence about it because one thing is the convenience of just taking it on because then you don't have to bother going to the check-in desk.
yeah,
But then I always feel like when you get there, well, like Ryanair and things, I have started weighing your case when you get to the actual gate now.
I got a funny story about that. So you know they've got those little basket things. Me and Greg were traveling somewhere. I can't remember where we were going, but it was Ryanair. I think it was to Ireland, to Dublin, and the you could see from the start. You know when you spot the check-in people, you could see them looking up the queue and them eyeing up people's bags. And I was thinking, oh, she had this really sour face on her, and I was thinking, oh, she's definitely going to pull us up here. Get there with a record bag, and she went, "Can you stick that in the basket?" And it was over the edge of the basket by like that much. And she went, "No, no, too big." And I was like, "You're joking me? Like that's an inch over the edge." And tried to pick it up, and she realised how heavy it was.
Oh,
And she's like, "Do you realise if that fell out of the overhead cabinet, that would kill someone?" And I was like, "Yeah, but why would it fall out of the overhead cabinet? It's got a you
yeah,
got to
yeah.
lock the thing on." And then she's like, "No, no," and charged me whatever money it was to then check it in.
Yeah, it's such a fucking bastard that because I think I usually go with the technique of they usually eye people up, don't they? As you sat waiting to check in, I'm like, fuck, right. I try and hide the bag underneath.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
I just hope
I think now I think they've sussed it. If you pay for the priority boarding with Ryanair, they don't care.
yeah, yeah. But I think with that is, I still think if they weigh it, because they are two heavy records, aren't they? They're like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but I've been looking at, have you seen them other bags, the ones that fold out in the middle?
Yeah, so I've got one of them now. So I've had 3, 4 UDG ones, and all of them either the wheels have gone, the handle always breaks off with me. So I'll be pulling along in the airport, and the handle just I'm left with the handle on the floor, and I've left the record bag behind me.
So
So
what,
I've
one of the foldy ones?
yeah, so I've got one of the foldy ones now, the airbag ones.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, they're amazing because if you buy a trolley for it, if the trolley breaks, then you just replace the trolley.
And has the trolley broken yet?
No, so I've got just a cheapo trolley off. I think it was off eBay. Bearing in mind, I only got this record back I think 6 months before we all went into
Yeah,
into pandemic mode. So there's not been too much. It's not seen too much action yet. But the trolleys are 13 quid.
yeah. I
So
want to.
once the record bag's a bit more expensive, you pay for one record bag
Yeah,
and then you just replace the trolley. Whereas the UDG, you end up spending 150, 160 quid a pop. Like,
yeah. The fold ones look sick because I think for not all clubs are that well set up to actually take your records out the bag sometimes, and have a look through them. But they look like ideal, really, because for anyone listening, there's a zip round the middle, and you can fold the bag into two, and you can stack your records up. So it's almost like it just you've got half records on one side, half the other, and you can flick through them.
yeah, it creates two record boxes for you almost. So yeah, like you say, in some clubs where there is nowhere to put your records, all you need is a table, and there you go. You've got two record boxes straight away, and it doesn't mean putting your records in. When you get there and there's drinks all over the table, and you think, oh, I don't want to put my records on there. So it's just good. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, I'm going to invest in one. Where did you get yours from? Did you get it from there? They do 'em on their website, but it's from Europe, I think.
Mine was a birthday present, so I don't know where they got it from. But I think you can get them. I think Phonica sell them. I know Christina Records in London sell them, so I think you can get them off their website. There's a few places around the UK that stock them
Oh,
to avoid you, especially now, paying all that import tax, which is.
I know, that's what I was thinking actually. I was gonna order it, but I was like, "Ah, I should really wait till the clubs come." Then I was like, "Fuck, the import tax and that." Um, yeah, it's on the list of things. The UDG ones do my head in.
Yeah,
I always cut my fingers because I'm always, like, there's always full the record bag, and I'm usually going around that, and my fingers are fucked every time.
yeah,
Like,
you get paper cuts, don't you, in the top?
ah, but the more heavy the night is, the worse my fingers always are because you can't even feel them there, and then you keep doing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You find you get pull a record out, it's got a spot of blood on the top where it's trapped you up the finger. Yeah,
So, not half baked, north south.
yeah.
Did that begin, and what was the stepping stones from half baked to north south?
Um, two of them are sort of completely unlinked,
Yeah,
other than the fact that
yeah,
I'm the only link between the two, really. So north south is three of us: me, Harry and Dale, Harry McCanna, Dale Mussington, um, and we all met just out partying in London. I met Harry a few times in London. I met Dale a few times in London, but then I remember the first times we hung out properly. Dale, we were both in Ibiza at the same time, and it was some party at Underground, I think. And we just spent the whole night together. We knew each other from London, bumped into each other, or knew we were going to be there, and spent the rest of the night just hanging out, and we just became best mates from there. And then Harry saying we'd been met each other in parties in London a few times, as you do, bump into the same people all around the place. And then we were at Glastonbury up at Stone Circle, and we bumped into each other there, and we just spent a morning together up at Stone Circle. And then from there, we came back. Harry and Dale were already good friends because they're both Londoners. Well, they live on the outskirts of London. So from there, it came together. Then we went to, I remember it was one Christmas. I can't remember what the year was. Maybe 2014, 2015. No, it must have been 2014. So I don't know if you've heard of Nick's Wax.
no, I don't think so.
So Alec Faulkner and Rob
Yeah,
Amble.
yeah,
So before they both have separate projects now, their first label was Nick's Wax,
yeah.
and Dale was good mates with, or is good mates with them from back in those days. And so Dale was playing for them in Christmas party in Dalston, and so me and Harry went there to see him play, and I think we then went to Dale's the next day, and one of us was playing the Saturday night as well, and we just had a mix at Dale's, and it just all came from there. The idea that we'd be sick to start a label. We all had this sound that we liked listening to and liked playing, and so yeah, that was where the idea was born. We went through so many different names of possibilities. Like there was number of different outrageous things that I'm so glad that we didn't call it now. But the north south thing comes from, I'm from the north and they're southern boys, and then obviously on the record, instead of an A side and a B side, we have a north side and a south side. So I think the label, it was supposed to be our third or fourth birthday last year. I think it's supposed to be. Oh, this is
Man,
awful.
years have gone. It's that year. I forget how old I am. I'm like, am I 25? Am I 24?
Yeah, it's because that skipped year. It's almost like you don't know what's trying to work things out. But yeah, we're now 3-4 years into it. Um, it never started as a party for us. It was a record label.
Yeah, I was going to ask that. Was it let's start a party, let's start a label, or let's start a DJ thing? Like, what was
It
the?
was let's start a label. It was always a label, and even now, if you ask us, we will all tell you we're a label primarily. Um, like I say, we had friends around us that were putting out a certain type of music that we were playing, and we felt we wanted to give a platform to that and keep it all in one place. So it was always a label first and foremost, and the party only came. So one of the owners of the Lion and Lamb, Mauro, came to us and he said, "Boys, have you not had any thoughts of sort of doing a party?" And the idea of a party, even then, it was a bit like, we're not sure about that. Like, we just want to release the music. And he talked us into it. And so it was more of a showcase of the sound and a showcase of the people we've got on the label. So then, yeah, and since then we've been doing bi-monthly parties at the Lion and Lamb, which I don't know if people listening may not have heard it. It's this amazing club in a pub, yeah, club in a pub in,
Yeah.
in East London. And it's got an amazing function one sound system in there. It's 150 capacity. Like it's amazing little spot, and that is now I'd say that's played a massive role in not only developing the sound that people have come to know North South for, but the label as a whole. It's very important in the North South story, the Lion and Lamb.
Firstly, I hate getting asked this question, but I want to ask you anyway. How would you define the sound of North South? It's like when someone asks me about the you and me label. Like I know in my head, but it's like it's a horrible question. But I thought I'd ask you anyway. If it can,
Yeah, it's a really tricky one because whilst I wouldn't necessarily say we go out there specifically looking for a sound, if you were to listen to all of the releases, you probably could say, "Oh, that's North South sound."
yeah,
Um, one, I think it was on Juno. You know, they leave the little reviews underneath the thing. One of the reviews one time described it as North South's typically bulbous sound. So it's kind of this sort of bulbous, warming, like bassy almost, bassy, housey, garagey, techno-y cross section of minimal. It's so hard. It's so hard. But bulbous, when he said when I read bulbous, I was thinking, oh yeah, that's a
that was a decent answer, man. Usually it's like a bit of this, bit of that. I think that's where you went in the end. But yeah, it's
yeah. Try to rein myself in.
the Lion and Lamb. I'm super jealous that you've got a place like that in London. There's places in Manchester which are similar-ish, but they haven't got the quality of the sound system.
Yeah,
Like small showcases, 150 capacity is ideal because you can turn
yeah.
up. I guess you don't have to worry about the party being quiet. 'Cause it's only 150.
Well,
Uh,
this is it. We didn't want. I think that's the main reason why we didn't want it to be a party because we didn't want all the added stress that comes with a party, running a party. Obviously, I know from running half baked parties, like sometimes there's serious stress if you've not made the right money or whatever. You've got to like really put all your heart and effort and everything you've got into making that party go right. Uh,
yeah, it puts strain on the people you're working with on the parties because it's
exactly, completely, and
yeah, it's funny for our dynamic. There's obviously me, Dash, and Mo who do the festival, and you and me. But obviously, it's when you sell those tickets, it's easy. Then when it's not, it's like, oh, could we do this? Could we do that? You know, and it's more stressful.
yeah,
Uh,
completely. And I think on the flip side to that, obviously working for Half Baked, whilst Bruno has given me a position where I can feel like I am doing a lot and it's I have a big part of it. I also wanted something that I could call mine. So for me, Harry and Dale, that is very much our project. Like it's ours. Do you know what I mean?
yeah, that was how you and me was born for me because I was when I first got connected with the guys I'm doing the project with, they were doing something else and it wasn't mine. And I was like, well, really, I see myself as being the guy who is the forefront of it. And without having my own thing, it's kind of hard, man.
Yeah, exactly,
Having,
exactly.
having control over the direct, just full control. That's what it is, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you want to don't want to have to. Obviously, there's three of us to make decisions, but we're very good at that. We've got our little WhatsApp group chat, and we'll say something in there, and it's like if it's two against one, it's like right, two against one, we win. But we're very fast at making decisions like that, and we often most times we're all thinking the same. Whereas with Half Baked, it's I've got to go to Bruno and say, okay, what do you think of this? So it's just having something for yourself.
Yeah, I think for us it's four. So if it's like 2v2, it's like oh shit.
Yeah, like right.
Yeah, luckily we never really faced too many obstacles like that. So what do you actually see for the future of North South? Is it just going to be more of the same?
Um, yeah, I suppose so. The label is ever growing. Um, just keep going. We've got no sort of master plan. We're just going with the flow, seeing how it happens, still releasing what we think is great music. um, and it seemed to have worked so far. So why change the sort of why change the plan almost?
Yeah.
Um,
How many releases is it now?
so the 8th is just about to come out should be out next week, hopefully, from Chris Geschwindner. And then we've got we've got the ninth one is following. And then after that, we've got ideas yet, but we've not sort of settled with all these delays with pressing plants. It's
It's so
just
annoying, isn't it?
feedback. Yeah. So Chris's record that's out next week was supposed to be out start of November.
Fuck. I think we're the same for the latest You and Me one that's not still not got the test press for. That was like a November, but we fucked up with some of the Gemma stuff because we didn't get the right number the letter through. And yeah, it's pushed it back. Just that's the massive downside of vinyl, right? That's
Yeah, exactly. There's the who's distributing for you?
we're doing with DJ, but it was actually our fault that there's been a delay. But then still it's still 3 months from at least from the day you kind of send everything off, which is a long fucking time, man.
Well, exactly. So we're being told, obviously, with the pressing plants, it goes through a number of different stages, and with coronavirus, there's furlough and things. So some people aren't able to go to that work at that stage because they're not in a factory or this. So it's just creating these massive backlogs. I've heard a number of different reasons why.
I
Uh,
know. It's kind of like pass the parcel in it when you ask about what's the problem.
yeah, exactly. And I'm sure it's all of these different things all contributing to one. I'm not sure it's one more than the other. I'm
Yeah.
fairly certain it's all these different things coming together and causing one sort of massive delay at the end.
And you do release your music on Bandcamp as well.
Yeah, so once a release has been out for a year or it's sold out, we would then put it onto Bandcamp. Um, we don't we never wanted, well, at first we never had the idea to put it on Bandcamp, but then when all these records started selling out and people were still asking us for the music and, oh, this record's sold out, is there any way we can get it? We just thought about it and thought there's no reason for us to be limiting this
Yeah.
music. We want it to be heard by as many people as possible. And to avoid going through the whole thing of repressing and repressing and repressing, we wanted to keep the vinyl to its original amount. If you've got the records, then yeah, there you go. But we don't want to stop people having the music completely. So we put all of the earlier releases onto Bandcamp, so anyone can download them digitally. That the latest ones will also follow in time. But then also with on the same on the same point, we've now started uploading things onto Spotify and Apple Music because not everyone's a DJ, not all of our mates are DJs, and people still want to listen to the music. So whilst they can download it on Bandcamp, like most of our friends who are DJs, who aren't DJs, sorry, aren't buying music on Bandcamp to listen to. People now are using the streaming things, so we wanted to get it onto these streaming sites so people can get it up and play it on their Spotify. So now we're in the process of going through and adding all those to all the streaming sites as well.
Yeah, I think that is the exact same approach we've had. I had like a red pill moment. I was like, why the fuck am I just doing vinyl only? Well, ours have sold steadily, but it's still like there's people that are not. I think if someone's going to buy the record, they're going to buy the record, even if
Yeah,
it's digital or not. Like if I like a record, I'm going to buy the record. Doesn't matter if it's digital or not. And I kind of couldn't get my head around that for a few years. I was kind of thinking, if it's on digital, someone's not going to buy the record. But now I've come to realize people are just going to. If someone wants to play the record, they're going to buy the record.
exactly. Yeah.
And they only end up on these free Russian download sites anyway.
Well, this is it. Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
they might as well just cash in. So we put them all on. We've done a lot. We've done Bandcamp, Beatport. So we thought if we're gonna do Bandcamp, might as well do Beatport. 'Cause at least people can chart them then. Because
yeah.
some bigger DJs like there's a bit of crossover. We've just done Spotify, Apple Music. But yeah, even that was a fuck around trying to get on Spotify and stuff.
What what digital distro are you using then?
We're using Labelworks. We
Okay.
approached we approached Above Board and they got
Yeah,
back to us too late as after we'd signed the contract with Labelworks. Above Board was our first choice.
yeah.
As they seem to deal with a lot of big labels. Uh,
Yeah, so we looked at doing it that route, like with a proper distro company. But in the end, we went for Lander. So they've got their mastering thing, but they also have a distro side for it, a digital distro. So it's just a super easy sort of
Bang up on there.
place. You just drag and drop your tracks into there, and then it does all the work for you. Like,
To be fair, Label Works is pretty much like that. You just it's I think it's 50% or something of like streaming revenue. Not that I'm expecting to get a big fat paycheck from Spotify streams, but
yeah,
yeah, we just went with them in the end because I knew other people would use them. But yeah, I think in terms of getting on playlists, things I think Above Board's quite a good one to go with.
okay, yeah, because one of our good friends is working for Above Board. So
Yeah, I think it's worth considering because I think the game changer for Spotify is just getting on playlists, whether it be like even a UKG playlist or like there's that many. I couldn't even think of the name. But yeah, these kind of if you got on a playlist with say some of the more crossover stuff, and then you can catch that wildfire, man. Spotify because there's what billions of people on that. Well, I don't know if it's
yeah,
billions, but I'd
yeah,
assume close.
yeah. I mean, everyone uses Spotify these days, and it's as frustrating as it is, the sort of streaming revenue that artists are receiving for the amount of sort of plays they're getting. It's almost like, do you make a stand and not go against it, or do you want your music to be heard?
Well, I
And
think I'm on the fence of like people moaning about the revenue, but I think the amount of exposure it gives you for fucking no work. I know you're making the track, but I think
yeah, yeah,
I don't know. I think if the problem is that you're not getting paid enough, you're not getting enough streams. Simple as that. It's almost like get more streams and you won't moan. So
yeah,
I get it is bad how much they're paying you, but I guess if they started paying artists more, they just start charging people more for fucking the subscription. So we'd all have to pay more for Spotify.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Kind of like I think they'd always end up winning, which is probably not right, because they made like some ridiculous amount of revenue. I remember seeing some statistics like from last year. Um,
Well, that's where there's this sort of gripe from people, isn't there? And
no,
it's
that's what I
I can
mean.
definitely understand where they're coming from, but it's yeah, like you say, everyone's got Spotify on their phones, so
I get that actually. When you think about it, it's because they're making so much profit. That's the problem. I kind of keep thinking, I forget about that. I'm kind of thinking that, well, DJs get exposure anyway. But when there's a guy that's got arguably no artistic talent making billions, it's kind of like, come on, it should be a
yeah,
bit.
it needs to be shared, doesn't it? It needs to be shared.
Yeah, I think on that note, I actually do agree with that. So, in terms of production,
Yeah.
where are you up to there? I see you've got a nice little setup in the background. So,
So yeah, so obviously this is the spare room at Mum's house. Having come, so I'm not in London at the moment. I don't know if we mentioned that. So I came back during the pandemic, um, when everything stopped, events stopped, parties stopped, and wasn't didn't know what I was going to do for income. So came home. So it's you can't see the rest of the room, but it's like all my stuff slung on top of the bed and whatever. So I've just got this corner of the room here as a sort of little studio. And the production thing, it came for me. It followed on. I've not been producing anywhere near as long as I've been DJing. The production thing, I must have started maybe 2015, 2016, and that was all very much in the box then, like keeping it sort of just learning Logic back then it was.
yeah,
Um, Harry McCanna taught me a lot on that front because he's been producing for years, and obviously we were hanging out all the time. And he's taught me so much on Logic. And then we both made the switch to Ableton at the same time. And I think it's when I made that switch to Ableton, that's when things really started to come together.
yeah.
Um, and then, yeah, in the last few years, it's just come on leaps and bounds for me. And in the last few years, I've started putting first bits out, first full solo records coming out first week of April. Um,
On your own label.
no on Albeit, do you know Albeit?
I recognise the name. Whose label is it again?
It's Marlon Clark's.
Ah, yes,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, I know. Yeah,
uh,
yeah,
so yeah, I've got first full releases coming out on that. But I've done I've done these bits on the compilations during lockdown. So I've done one for Voigtman's Subsequent and done one for the Gotwood guys, and it's been great. And then during during this lockdown, it's been the best time for me to really sort of take it to the next level. I feel having that step back from traveling every weekend and playing around and whatever, it's been amazing to give me something to really focus on and take to the next level. On top of that, the what do you call it? The Arts Council, they do these grants.
Yeah, yeah.
So I got one of them, applied for the thing, got one of them. So that's really allowed me to sort of invest in a bit of gear, and so I've having the time during this lockdown to sort of really get my head into it and
Yeah, yeah.
understand all the gear, look at how synthesis works deeply. Um, it's been great, and as bad as this sort of year has been in terms of everything stopping and me coming back here and not having any of my mates around me, it's been amazing in that sense because I've really not just been doing it in my spare time. It's been
Also,
making music every single day. Like
so what gear did you go for out of interest?
it's
Is
got
that-
OB6,
I just sold mine, you know.
not OB6, sorry, Profit 6.
Oh, I sold the OB6 and bought the Profit 5.
Yeah. Oh, you got Profit 5, did you? Nice. Is that the
Yeah,
one on top?
yeah, yeah, fucking hell. I've kind of keep it a bit quiet because almost like when you go for it, I was like, fuck it, I might as well do it because I got about 2 grand for the OB6, and I thought right because it was expensive, man, the profit. But I was like, fuck it, it's a lifetime investment, so
Yeah.
that's anyway. But
Yeah.
got the Profit 6.
Yeah, got the Profit 6, so I love that. Um, love that. It's such a sort of, whilst it has these really big, lush, paddy things, it can also do these amazing basses, and it's super well-rounded. Um, Obviously, the Ableton Push is great for just as a little controller. I see you got one there as well.
Control though, man. Everyone's like, "Do you recommend the push?" I'm like, "If you've got 600 quid to spend, don't buy a fucking push. I don't think they're worth 600 quid or whatever they are."
No, but I feel like it opens up Ableton in a way that I never sort of.
I know you can press play and stop on it.
So you're not a massive fan of it then?
You know what? I actually slag it off a lot, and I actually use it all the time. I use the scale function and use the pads to play keys. And
Mm,
now 'cause I've got all my synths set up there, I can just put scale on here, and I can almost like be. I can play around preset flick while playing there.
yeah. I do love it. I do love it. I feel like it keeps me away from the computer, which when I was making things in the computer, I'm a very hands-on person. I don't like to be sort of clicking around. So having a few bits of gear to play with, it made it even more fun for me. Like, so my for my birthday, you know how friends do these like pop things,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I've been intrigued by modular. And so I decided when I got this pot of money from friends for birthday that I wanted to delve into that, and that's become a sort of another obsession now. Just like,
Was that a good move?
yeah, I love it, love it,
Yeah.
love it.
I've I
I,
think
again, sorry to jump in there, but again, maybe if I didn't have the time that I've had in the past year, it wouldn't have been the best move because it really takes a lot of time to
yeah, it does.
understand.
I think one blessing might be that because you've took production more serious recently, it's probably been easier to incorporate things like the modular into your workflow. I feel like now because I'm so set in my ways,
Yeah,
has to complement it. Because I bought like the MC505s from the right out of shot. One, the screen was broke, but it just kind of slowed me down. I think one thing I'm actually bad at is sometimes like I just want to move forward with the process, and like make tracks kind of and always just be in a flow. And sometimes I'm not that good at actually sitting down and really learning things inside out. And if you get modular, you need to fucking do that.
yeah, exactly. Um, I think it forces you in a way to do that because
Otherwise, it's not going to make us. It's literally not going to make a sound unless you.
yeah, exactly. So you're forced to learn how everything works inside out. But my knowledge of that has now sort of fed on into all other kinds of synthesis. So it's the modular and working out how to patch this oscillator to this filter to this. It breaks it all down in your head. So when you get a sort of standalone synth,
Yeah,
it's you understand how everything is working across the whole thing, which I don't think if you just get a synth with a keyboard, you don't think about that usually. You're just playing around with all of the different
Yeah,
knobs on it. Whereas now I understand, okay, if I run the oscillator through the filter first and then put some modulation into there, it breaks the whole process down, which I found for myself even more helpful.
yeah,
So
because Alex Kidd is actually in a three-part module on synthesis inside SYNTHO because it's not my strong point, like the actual like real technical side.
yeah,
And we recorded it the other day, and part one's already out now. But he used a modular to explain it. He used VCV rack, and it made a lot of sense to me then because all this our actual synth is just like a modular, but with the case on it, and it's already
yeah, yeah.
yeah, and it actually made a lot of sense to me. So as complicated modular is, I think it actually is a very good learning tool for anyone.
Completely. I completely agree with you on that one. Yeah, yeah.
And have you found it's been a bit of a bottomless money pit, or have you been quite disciplined with the modules you get?
It has been a it can be, but because of this grant,
Yeah,
it's allowed me to delve into that without, because obviously money is tight at the moment already, being in the pandemic and whatnot. So if it wasn't for that grant, I wouldn't have been able to do to increase from what I got from that birthday present almost.
yeah, yeah.
Mm.
So
So it
what
can be can be a
bottomless money pit?
bottomless pit. Sorry, yeah.
That's what
But
I think Ben Rao told me that once, like years ago. He's like, "Don't get a modular; it's a bottomless money pit." And that like modular and bottomless money pit is like they're just glued together for me now. Whenever like I associate the modular, I'm like, yeah,
yeah, yeah. But also, I feel like you need to be really strict on yourself with it, because you can just buy modules, but at the same time, you don't learn anything if you're just constantly buying them. So when I'm getting a module, I'll buy one at a time and learn that one inside out. So I know exactly the functions of everything. I can know what that's going to do. If I patch that to that, I know exactly what the outcome will be.
yeah,
Whereas if you go and buy, say, oh yeah, you buy a rack and you buy 15 modules straight away, you're not going to know any of those modules half as deeply as you would any other thing. Do you know what I mean?
yeah. I think everyone's guilty of that. I think it's just like 2021 culture, and you just buy something. I've been bad for it in the past, bought bits of gear. But what happens is I usually buy it, and then like a few months later, I'm like, shit, I barely even use this, and then I really get stuck into it. But I've always found the best way is just to buy something and only use that to make a track.
Yeah, exactly.
I've just used the profit just to record every synth part, and really found my way around it. So, any more gear on the horizon, or are you just going to stick with what you got for a
No,
bit?
I'm happy now is what I've got for the time being. I'm happy with the workflow. I'm happy with everything, how it's going. So I don't even feel the need at the moment to add to it. I'm sure in time things will be like, oh yeah, I want to change this, or I want to add to this. But right now I'm happy with how it's going, and I,
Sick.
I don't want to change.
And looking ahead to DJing, as as someone who's been busy during the pandemic, I almost felt at one point that DJing, I didn't feel excited about it again. I lost my excitement towards DJing for a duration of this pandemic, and I thought I actually it went that long. I almost forgot what it was like to be in that routine of preparing records for certain occasions,
Yeah,
get those bookings. I'm interested to know what was your experience with that, and how was your feeling now towards it?
I feel like so it was actually a year ago, March the 15th, I think it was, that I left London to move back here. So a year to the week, basically. That whole process of packing up all of my records, all of the shells, sticking them in a van, driving them back here, it was such a sort of like, I got to see so many records that I hadn't seen in so long because they've been tucked away in the shells.
How many have you got out of interest? Do you know?
I think maybe 2,000, 2,500, something like this. Um, it's two of the four Kallax things.
Yeah, that's the best measure of vinyl.
Yeah,
Vinyl
yeah.
filled up.
I'm pretty good at that though. When I buy a record, I always put it in my Discogs collection, so I know exactly what I'm quite methodical with everything that I do. So like I was saying, with the modular, learning it all inside out, with the records as well. When I buy a record, it goes straight in the collection. So there,
Wow. I
there is not any sort of chance that I'm going to buy something and just completely forget about it, because there is that there is that record of it all there.
wow, so you've actually that is something that I would love to have, done. You've got every record basically registered. Well, not
Yeah,
re yeah, registered on your
yeah,
disc.
yeah, 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 yeah.
That's unreal.
Um,
What point did you begin that? From the start?
yeah, I was buying a few records before I moved to London. But it really, when I first moved to London, that's when the record buying really sort of intensified, because there was just so many record shops around. More so at that time, with Phonica, and Christina was just up the road from me, so there was all these different record shops that were around that I had just access to all of a sudden. Growing up here on the Wirral, you only had you only had the internet basically to buy records. So whilst there was a slow sort of steady income, that didn't the real record buying didn't start until sort of 2012.
Student loan.
Sorry.
Student loan funding it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, big time. Can I eat? Should I eat pasta or yeah, pasta? um, Going back to your original question though of the pandemic and how it's affected the DJing. So yeah, when I first came back, there was that real hunger to just play records all the time. I had that first lockdown when no one had anything to do. No one could see any friends. I had no friends up here at that time. A few schoolmates have come back over the years, so I've seen some schoolmates, but essentially I was here by myself. So I had all this free time all of a sudden. So I was playing records most days. And then as you say, it dropped out when you've got that no inspiration and you're thinking, oh, there's no clubs. It sort of slows down again, and I found it quite hard at points to sort of. It's much harder to then psych yourself up to go and play records in a room when you're so used to playing at the weekends and getting this sort of feeling of
The energy.
playing with people and getting that sort of adrenaline when you step into a DJ booth.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? Because I don't know, you almost feel guilt. I always feel guilty sometimes when I can't be asked going on the decks on my own. I'm like, surely I should want to do this, but I think when you get used to that feeling of playing to a crowd, it's
Yeah,
like it
and I
must.
suppose I suppose not even just playing to a crowd, but going around to your mates on a Friday night and playing records with your mates. It's something to be shared almost. So
Yeah,
when
yeah,
you're not sharing it with people, it doesn't feel quite the same.
yeah.
So there has been points during the lockdown, during the pandemic, where I've just thought, oh, yeah, no, this like, what is this? But then it's come in waves. So then I've come waves where I've got this massive rush of inspiration, and all I want to do is play tunes, and I'll go downstairs and play for a few hours. But then now with the news coming back again, that things are reopening, it's almost been like straight away, like, I want to do this. Like,
Like, I'm some requests are coming in and confirmation for gigs. And I'm like thinking, oh, I need to get this record for that occasion. You know, that real excitement again of like actually finding records, the direction.
yeah, yeah,
I actually probably bought more records during the pandemic than I did before the pandemic, partly because I was just having more time on Discogs and stuff like that. But a lot of them were kind of without a direction. And I found one thing I've actually just realized then is a lot of the time when I'm buying a record, I might kind of think about in a situation I can play it. Whereas like a lot of the time in the pandemic, I was just kind of buying them just to play, you know, at home and just
yeah, 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 yeah,
play it
yeah.
on live stream, I guess, which is fucking mad. Uh,
I've had these sort of Discogs binges where I've bought loads of records and then they arrive and I'm just like, oh, well, really? I mean, I think about it. I like the record, but is it something that would play out?
yeah, I think I've got a
You
loads of
know,
records.
so a lot of the stuff which I've bought during lockdown has actually gone listed back on Discogs.
Are
Just
you are you a buyer and seller then? Do you get rid of the ones you're not playing?
not really. I mean, only the things that I've bought down during lockdown that's happened with, because in the past when I was going to a record shop, I'd buy a record with sort of something in mind or a moment in mind,
Yeah,
and you almost get that attachment to it when you. So if I go on my record shelves now, I can pull out a record. I can say, oh yeah, I remember buying this in Phonica on this date, and I played it at this gig and
yeah.
it this. Whereas a lot of the stuff that I bought during the lockdown, it to me, it didn't have any meaning attached to it, and
Yeah.
because that meaning didn't have any attachment to it, I had no attachment to that record. So when I listened to it a few times and thought, actually, no, I'm not really sure I like that one, I have no sort of problem with listing that one. Whereas I might find a record in my shelf that I never play anymore. It might be from 6 years ago, but I've never played it for the past four. But because it's got that sort of some attachment to me somewhere, that's staying there. So I'm only really selling things that I don't have any sort of attachment to at all, that I've just bought on a whim, basically.
Yeah, I think, 'cause I bought a lot of records, especially last summer, when we were doing live streams and stuff, and, like, I was taking my decks outside us, so I was having some good actual, lengthy mixing sessions. I was buying tons of records, but now they're just kind of lost in the abyss on the shelves, and it's
Yeah,
quite a job to go through my shelves now and, decide what's gonna be suitable for the clubs, because I bought loads of fucking records that have never been played in a club.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. It's about thinking what your how they will fit within your style. I think that's the other thing that this lockdown has been amazing for, both in the production sense but the DJ sense as well. It's given me that chance to step back and think, what music do I really want to be playing? What is my style? So I feel like the whole lockdown and pandemic, and almost it's almost isolation, almost where you're just restricted to you in your house with your parents, whatever, or it's it's really allowed me to refine my style to another level.
Yeah, I think that's a good, good point, because I guess now, that the record bag is empty, uh, metaphorically,
Yeah,
and it needs repacking, I guess, from scratch again. And I think when you're playing every week, it's never it does empty the bag, but it's kind of just an evolving story. Whereas
yeah,
now,
you get records that stay in there, and they stay
and I
in there
think the
for a
story's
few.
gonna begin again for everyone. I
Yeah.
hope DJs aren't gonna come and start playing the same records they were before the pandemic, but probably one or two. But I would think everyone's gonna reset and bring something fresh completely.
Yeah, and I'm excited to hear that, because I think not just for us too. I'm sure we can't be the only two people that have had this experience, of this sort of resetting experience. I speak about it regularly with both Dale and Harry. Like, we've all seen this reset as a chance to sort of clear out all of what we don't like and bring in just what we do like. And it's exciting. I'm looking forward to hearing people's sets when they come back.
Yeah, I think that'd be pretty sick. Uh,
Yeah.
so when you say you've had a think about how you want to refine your style a bit more, did you come to a conclusion, or is it more of just again something that only makes sense to yourself?
No, yeah, it's not. I wouldn't be able to say to you, "Oh, yeah, no, I'm going to play this way now." But I mean, more in the sense of, when I'm buying records now, it's I have a much better idea, or maybe not better, but I have a much more refined idea of the kind of records that I like to play and like to buy.
It's
Um,
interesting, isn't it? Like, what actually makes us like a record? Because the amount of times I bought a record and I play it, I'm just like, did it sound different on Discogs or
yeah, yeah, yeah,
and then it's like, then I go on Discogs, it sounds the same. I'm like, fuck, I'm sure it sounded good online.
yeah,
Like, oh, it's so sick. Um, I think learning, because we're both relatively young in terms of the lifespan of a DJ. I think it takes a long time to actually to learn what you want to play. I was thinking about this actually this week, that when I was probably even like 22, I actually thought I was such a good DJ, but in hindsight, I was so inexperienced still. And I think it's only something that comes with time. Like, you can't actually speed up the process of knowing what record to play and what you actually like. I think it's just a matter of I just don't think it can be sped up. Do you?
I know. I completely agree with you on that. I think this sort of refining thing happens over years and years and years and years and years. You've got DJs like Craig Richards, who's been in the game for years and years, and his sort of musical knowledge and whatnot has just been so developed over all that time that it's allowed him to be at a point where he's now sort of at the forefront of DJing, because his musical knowledge, he can play music that he likes from so many different genres. He can warm up for all these different kinds of DJs in Fabric and match all of them
Yeah.
because
It's
of his musical knowledge. That's only something that comes with experience. Like you say, you can't start DJing tomorrow and be the best DJ in the world, because it's all about the selection and how you piece those tunes together.
Yeah, I think it's something I've really I think it was only yesterday I was thinking about this. To think that when I was 22, 23, technically, yeah, I could like mix flawlessly, but I just think the selections and that it's just something that you learn with time, and it can't be sped up.
No,
Really
kidding.
can't be sped up. Um, but yeah, that's something exciting. I'm actually gonna do that today. I think go through some records. What would your number one tip be out of interest? This is asking for me. When it comes to packing your bag, do you have like a well? After all this, have you thought about how you're gonna go about the task for the first gig back?
When I'm packing my bag, they go in no order. There is no sort of
Yeah,
planning to it. If I think, yeah, that's going to work for this weekend, obviously in my head, there's an order.
yeah,
But when it's going in my bag from front to back, there's no order.
yeah.
Harry is amazing at this. He puts sort of, I think he puts the more warm-uppy stuff at the front and works his way back. Whereas me, it's just straight into the bag. But then when you get to the gig, it takes harder to flick through. So maybe it's something I need to start considering, start sort of making it easier when you get to the gig for it to all be ready to go. But no, I can't say I've got
Uh,
any routine really.
one thing I was going to ask you as well was the Discogs thing because it's something I'm going to have to do. I think to be if you well, I'm going to probably be doing this for a long time, so I would like to have an idea of actually what records I've got, and I guess it makes it easy then to find records. And do you have it ordered as well?
Well, so this is the thing. I didn't have it ordered, and then my laptop. It was start of 20. Was it last year? No, start of what year are we now? 2021. Yeah, start of 2020. My laptop broke and I had to go into the Apple shop for a week or 10 days or something to be fixed. And in January, because we didn't do any parties in January, that was a month off for me.
Yeah.
I had nothing to do at this point. I couldn't make music because my laptop was in the thing. I could mix records. So I thought, right, what I'm going to do is take everything off the shelves, like start to finish,
Wow.
and just started making piles. So I had an A pile, so that all the A pile would go over there.
Label name or artist name?
Artist name, artist name.
What made you choose the artist name, not the label name?
I was toying between the two, and I thought,
Label, I think. Actually,
yeah,
what?
it's. I went for artist name purely because I felt the good thing now. I can go on Discogs and I can look at A and I can go straight to my shelf and know where that record is.
Yeah.
I felt like label name doesn't get as precise, perhaps. But
Yeah.
then again, I suppose if you're looking on Discogs, you can go and look at the label and say, okay, that's in that label, so I can go to that section. It's preference, really, I guess.
So, what was the task like? Was it? I bet it was quite therapeutic.
It was therapeutic. It took a long time. That 10 days that it took to fix my laptop, it took pretty much the whole time. Um, so at first, I was like, "Yeah, I'm enjoying this." I was finding records that I hadn't found for ages. But then, as the days went on, I was like, "Oh, why did I ever start this task?" But by the end, when now, for example, when I moved, took them all out the shelves to move back here, I kept them in
Less
their letters. So I'd cling film around them and then put them in a box. So all the A's were together, all the B's were together. So then when I came back, put my shelves back here, could just put all the A's straight onto the A part of the shelf and so on.
That is impressive, and I love the fact it's all on Discogs. Do you when you buy a new record now, or say Juno, I don't know how many new records you buy, but I'm assuming a few. Um, do you still register them on Discogs straight away?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So I've got into the habit of, like I say, everything I do is fairly methodical. So I've got into the habit as soon as Juno, for example, if I order something off Juno, when the sort of the invoice receipt comes to my inbox, straight away into the Discogs, like NSR 007, straight into the Discogs, like add to collection.
sick. That is impressive techers. And does Harry do that as well?
I'm not sure if he does actually. I know Dale doesn't. He's got some of his stuff in his collection and some of his stuff isn't. Harry's in his shelves. He's got things separated by genre, but I'm not sure if he lists things in um, in his Discogs. No, I'm not too sure on that.
Yeah, I'm
So that's just something that I always have done, and I'm thankful for it because it makes the whole thing so much easier. Like,
yeah, because you can find any record you want. There's
yeah,
I'm doing a live stream tomorrow actually because my brother's doing a uni project, and I was like, oh, I want to do just do a garage set just for something different because I thought like, oh, I've actually got some good gigs coming up, so I'd rather save my records I want to play in the clubs. I want to save all the sick ones now and like not.
yeah,
But yeah, then it's like fuck, I'm gonna have to go through shelves and shelves, half the like
yeah.
tell what records what.
And that's it. That's it. So that whole sort of time thing is removed. So it just saves me a lot of time, makes it all a lot easier.
Yeah, yeah, man. I think it's an impressive one. So in terms of gigs, how's your summer looking?
So yeah, I mean, things are starting to come back in now. We've got um, Half Baked obviously starting to come back. So we've got a few things lined up with Half Baked. We've got all our North South parties for the year lined up.
Sick.
Um, we've got a couple of festival bits that were supposed to happen that are sort of being pushed back. So Headroom Festival, which is a really small festival in Wales, it's only for 250 people, so it's more like a private party in a field in a festival format. So that's as North South. We're going to be playing there start of July, and then there's other bits and bobs that are coming up that are sort of quests coming in, which is it's exciting to see when you see things pop up in the email. It's like, oh, I've not seen something like that for a while.
It's
It's
such
really
a
exciting,
it's
yeah.
not the whole DJing thing as a whole, like getting gigs again, the whole novelty is like it's really back and the energy.
Yeah. But what I also like about it, obviously, the UK is the only place at the moment that is open. So it's all UK, all focused around the UK, which is
It's
something. It's
yeah,
yeah, amazing. I think it's going to be really good for UK artists because it's sort of bringing the focus back, not bringing big headliners over all the time, and sort of it's not all going to be about the headliner in the next few years. I don't think because there will be restrictions on travel with Brexit as well. Like it's going to be harder to bring bigger artists over. It's going to cost more. So it's going to be exciting to see some sort of the grassroots from the UK sort of coming through again.
yeah. I think we're doing our summer dates, and we've said that it's just UK again. But
Yeah.
I think there's actually not loads of DJs from the UK though. When you start like thinking about when we've been brainstorming, the DJs that are going to they're going to help pull the party together.
Yeah. Yeah.
Actually, not that many.
Yeah.
It's a great time for English DJs to really come through because
Exactly. Yeah.
to get booked, and there actually isn't that many. Despite people think it's like an oversaturated market, I don't think there's actually that many.
No, and I think having gone through the pandemic, I think come the other side of it, there will be a lot less as well.
Yes, true. Actually,
Because I feel like during the during the pandemic, people might have been like, "Oh, you know what? It's not really for me," or they've stopped buying records, or
yeah,
they come through the other end, and it's just like, "No, I'm not doing that anymore." So it's really the ones that actually do want it and are still pushing themselves that are going to have not only really benefited from it in the sense of what we were talking about in terms of refining sound, but it will have really pushed them on the other side to actually make something of it.
yeah. I think completely, man. So to finish, Sam, I've got some questions for you that are usually
Yeah.
like non-music related, 10 quick fire ones. And we'll start with what is your go-to breakfast?
I'm not a massive breakfast guy. I suppose if I do have breakfast, it's usually like big bowl of Cheerios, the honey ones.
And how come you don't have breakfast? Just not fit
I know I should. I know I should,
that
but I
bad?
love to sleep in the morning. Like I can stay up as late at night in making music or whatever, but always in the morning. It's just like, oh,
It's an early
I
morning
always have a morning coffee, but the breakfast is never a thing. And then I'll get starving around 11 a.m. and start looking in the cupboards for food. But
person. What is your favorite band or slash artist outside of electronic music?
oh, that's impossible.
Are
That
you
is
a big music listener?
Yeah, yeah. But it's so broad and so varied that one day it'll be from your Radiohead, next day I'll be listening to Miles Davis or whatever. Like it completely changes. I could never answer that question.
Big one. Football team?
Liverpool.
Ah, you're a proper fan as well.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a bad time to be a
On
Liverpool.
your Instagram, you're a Man United boy, aren't you?
Yeah, Brent got dropped by England.
I know, yeah.
That's a low blow in it when there's Eric Dyer and people out playing.
Yeah, exactly.
What is your favorite quote?
Ooh, I'm going to go with it's probably a bit of a cliche one, but it's also very important to remember, and it's Rome wasn't built in a day,
But bricks are being laid every day.
but bricks are being laid every day.
That's
Exactly. Yeah.
what I
I think
like.
that's important for a lot of people to remember, like especially in our world, like you're not,
Completely.
you're not going to get from here to here like without a lot of work and a lot of time.
Yeah, I think it's so important to add the end bit though. Rome wasn't built in a day, but they were laying bricks every day.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
easy for people to. I did a bit of a rant on my story yesterday because I people kind of get overwhelmed by the task at hand to become a DJ. I think part of the problem is people think about the big picture before they've even fucking like learnt the basics.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah,
Anyway, I said all you have to do is just a few hours a week because people go a few weeks without doing it, without realizing it. People can go like a month without making any tunes. They might just do it fucking 3 hours a week, and that's all you really need to do to actually get decent. Ideally more, but I mean bare minimum. Because I know for a fact people can go like 3, 4, 5, 2 months made no tunes, and then it's like that's when the bricks aren't getting laid. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
exactly. Yeah, 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 yeah. Everything starts to break down if you've got to keep
Yeah.
your brain ticking, and everything's got to keep flowing. Do you know what I mean?
Um, what's one artist you'd love to go back to back with that you haven't already gone back to back with?
This Are we talking friends here, or are we talking sort of
Go for a wild card. What surprised the listeners the most? Or just get go on, not do why do you one friend and one non-friend. The non-friend's
okay,
gonna
so non-friend, it would always have to be Zip. Like
oh yeah.
he to me is the ultimate friend. Trying to think who I've not played out of my mates who I've not played with now. Oh, it's a tricky one.
Who's your
I really
favorite
like,
to back with?
sorry.
Favorite friend to go back to back with?
As North South when we play as the three of us, um, it's always good fun, and each of us have our own different styles individually, but they all connect so well. And yeah, when I play with the boys, I have so much fun. Like
So
so,
got a
I
friend that you've not played
wouldn't
with?
be able to, sorry.
Got one a friend that you want to go back to back with that you've not, or is that one escaped you?
I'm trying to think. Most of my close friends that also play, I've played with at some point, whether it be at after party or at a main party. I'm trying to think.
So it's just Zippy then. It's a good enough answer, man.
Yeah, yeah. That's the dream one day.
Uh, what was your lesson of lockdown?
Sometimes it's best. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it really helps to take a step back, reset, reanalyze things, and then take a step forward again.
I think the whole scene needed it. I'm now saying it's the reset that the scene never knew it needed, or nightlife as a whole, because now nightlife's clearly going to be booming this summer, more booming than it ever would have been in the year of no pandemic, if that makes sense. I think if the pandemic had never happened, nightlife would have just stayed like that. I think it's going to go like, like crazy.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with you on that one. Yeah,
What's your favorite place in the world?
I love Mallorca. Mallorca, just the beaches, the feeling to the island, like just relaxed. Yeah, I love it. The food, the sangria, like perfect.
One item you couldn't live without, but it can't be electronic.
Ooh, everything's electronic.
I know that's a good question. Some people like sunglasses.
Sunglasses is a good one.
I could live without sunglasses though. That's the thing.
Yeah, I could. I'm not a massive sunglass wearer. Um,
I would say a coffee machine, but that's electronic. Actually, coffee.
Coffee, yeah, coffee. Yeah, that's what it would be for me. Yeah, every day starts with a coffee. So if I didn't have coffee, then yeah,
Are you one coffee a day or do you do it multiple?
no, multiple. So my grandmother's Italian, so there's always been coffee around. Like,
How many a day? What's the average out of interest?
I have a double when I get up in the morning, and then probably another double around lunchtime, and then possibly another one in the afternoon.
I'm not surprised you can't sleep at night. Uh, what's your favorite TV series?
Ooh, that's a tricky one. It's either Breaking Bad, which is yeah, or The Wire. Yeah, I could not pick between the two. I've recently started watching The Sopranos, which everyone's telling me is another one of the all-time classics. But out of the two I've seen,
Breaking Bad's unreal, innit?
Breaking Bad or The Wire, yeah,
You done
yeah.
Game of Thrones?
I think I saw up to sort of season 3, season 4 of Game of Thrones, but then never took it further than that. I'm not so much one for sort of fantasy. Um, Not so big on my sci-fi, but when it's a bit more real life,
Yeah.
Breaking Bad is obviously some bits are a bit over egged, but it is wide, sort of connected to real life.
Yeah, it's a classic that. And the last question is, what do you know now that you wish you knew then?
It's okay to make mistakes. Not everything needs to be perfect every single time.
Good one.
That's important for your learning process to make mistakes. You only learn by making mistakes. You don't learn by succeeding every single time.
Yeah, I was listening to Max Holloway yesterday on Joe Rogan. He spoke about that a lot. How fighters lose, and it's okay. You just got to bounce back, and
Yeah.
that's when character really shows. I think.
Yeah, you learn more about yourself making mistakes and how you work to sort of come back from those mistakes than if you get something right every single time. You think you've got it sussed, and then when you do make a mistake, it's like game over because you're not used to making mistakes.
Yeah. And bonus question, asking for me, is what is your one tip for maintaining long hair? Hard one.
uh, Lots of conditioner,
Yeah.
lots of conditioner, um, and don't shampoo too regularly.
Okay, is that the trick?
Yeah, because well, with my hair, because it's super curly. If I shampoo it too often, it gets really dry. So just a lot of conditioner, and yeah, sometimes I shampoo with conditioner. So instead of using a
Right,
shampoo,
good one. Ah,
sorry.
sorry, I know what you mean. To use the conditioner instead of the shampoo.
So I'll wash my hair with conditioner, wash it out, and then I get a leave-in conditioner and put it in.
Okay, so that's the trick.
Yeah.
And one more question: are you going to go to Houghton this year?
Yes, we got our tickets. Yeah,
Well done.
you going?
Yes, 100%. Luckily, I kept my ticket from the first, from the whenever it last was. I think it was
Yeah.
2019. Did you keep yours as well?
2019, I think.
When did it get cancelled? 2019.
2019, but did they not refund everyone's tickets that year?
I don't know. I had a ticket though already. I didn't have to buy it. I hope I do. I'm pretty
Was
sure.
it not? Is it not from 2020? Did you buy one for last year?
Yeah, it must be last year.
Yeah. Yeah. So we didn't have tickets for last year. So obviously last week when the whole sort of chaos of buying tickets and that 20,000 person queue or whatever it was. So me, Harry, Dale, some of our other mates were all in that queue. When it refreshed, I was like, this is on when the pre-sale came out on, was it Wednesday? The pre-sale came out, and I was 8,000 in the queue. Harry was 2,000. Dale was 5,000. And Harry got through and he managed to get 4 tickets. And then by the time it got to Dale, Dale was like, oh, it's sold out.
Wow.
Then tried again the next morning. And I had my brother on it as well at this point. I called him up. He's got a flat in Liverpool. I was like, Will, I know you've got super fast internet in your flat. Can you try and get on there for me? And yeah, he got back in the queue and he was behind me in the queue on Thursday morning. And yeah, didn't get didn't get through.
Have you not got a ticket?
No, Harry got the 4, so
Ah,
Harry got the saved. Yeah.
are you glamping it? Or are you doing normal tent?
No, no, we always go for the posh tent. I mean,
We
it's
do. It's such this. Honestly, anyone listening to this, I couldn't think of a better life hack. I don't
transforms your festival experience.
say because you can go for a shower, you can charge your phone, you can lie on a bed. You don't have to fucking set your tent up. You don't have to take your
You can
tent
fit
home.
8 people in them. You can fit 8 people in. After you wanna go back to your tent and have a chill out, you can get 8 of your friends in there. Just don't have to if it rains, you don't get soaked.
And so it's like one of them things I almost feel bad saying it when someone's like, "Oh, so have you got your tent sorted?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm doing glamping," but you know what? I think more people need to be aware of the pros of glamping because it's
Oh, yeah, big time. And for what, 150 quid each?
yeah, I think
Don't have to cart a tent there, like, it's amazing.
I know it's unreal. So Sam, it's been an absolute pleasure. Hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah, I loved it. Thank you very much for having me. It was great to have a chat, yeah.
And we need to have a mix, seeing as you're not that far away from me, or a studio session or something.
Definitely, definitely, we'll work that out in the
This, I'll send my postcode to you and see how far it actually is.
yeah.
And it's only about half an hour or so.
Yeah, I don't think Wilmslow it's this side of Manchester, isn't it?
It
My
is
side of Manchester.
well, Liverpool Airport's like half an hour from me, so it can't be that
Yeah,
far.
it's not far at all then, straight on the M62, I guess, or
Yeah.
M56, yeah, not far at all.
Cool, man. Well, I will drop you a message and chat to you in a bit, man.
Yeah, thank you very much for
Yeah.
having me.
Have a good day,
Cheers.
mate. Safe, bro.